Lewis, welcome to the Pursuit of Peace podcast. How you feeling?
Good. Yeah, excited.
In the zone?
Yeah, always.
Ready to go? I can see you got your nice Ipswich
Had to, you know.
strip there. It's a special time with
Gotta
the
show
Euros.
people the roots.
Yeah, come on, represent. So, hey, Lewis, you are a spoken word artist,
I am. Yeah.
a performance poet, aka spoken to life.
Yeah.
Okay. You are passionate about shaping poetry that packs a punch, communicating your personal struggles, steps in faith, and speaking out about things such as racism. Right? So recent roles have led to you being on BBC Wordsfest, a national finalist in 2023, performing at BBC Contain Strong Language Festival in Leeds, and collaborating in Coventry City of Culture, kind of little project with Lebanon creatives addressing topics of youthfulness and problems in society.
Yeah.
Am I still on the right track?
You're on the right track.
Okay. So you're hailing from the birthplace of the mighty Ed Sheeran, Ipswich. Is that correct?
Yeah. It is. Although, do you know what? I've got to be honest. You know, as we're on the podcast. So, I grew up in the Ipswich postcode. However,
Postcode. Okay, so you're a fake. You're a plastic.
Yeah, basically, basically. So imagine the town of Ipswich is here. Like that's the main town. You've got about 8 miles out. You've got loads of villages. I grew up in one of those villages. So technically, it's not Ipswich, but
Okay.
it's in the Ipswich postcode. You know.
Okay, so it's like if I don't know Bob Marley was born in the Bahamas and then he says
Basically.
okay,
Yeah.
and so you're a big football fan and you extend your compassion and belief in young people through to working as a youth worker.
Yeah.
Wow, it's awesome to have you with us. How do you
Great to
feel
be here.
sitting on the chair speaking into the mic in this space?
Feel excited. Yeah.
Exciting.
So I like the actual space. The studio space is really peaceful.
Nice.
as
Shout
well.
out to 22 Productions. Little
Yeah.
plug there.
Nice little room.
So this is what we do. Every podcast in this little season, bucket, bin, or bargain. Okay. So I'm going to give you some options. If it's a bucket, like in basketball, it's a swish. It's a winner. You're going to go for it every time. If you want to bin it, put it in the bin, you get rid of it like you would never do that thing. Okay. Or a bargain is only if it's cheap.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you options. You choose if it's bucket, bin, or bargain.
Cool.
Okay, you with us? All right, let's go. We're going to get to know a little bit about you. So, first one, holiday. 5 days in a shack in the Amazon rainforest.
Bin.
Bin, why?
In a shack.
Like these nice, we'll call it like a glam shack. It's not camping.
A glam
It's-
shack.
Yeah,
You
it's like
give me a bit more detail.
Okay, so
about
it's
the glam shack.
watertight. There could be an odd bug here or there, but no monkeys are coming in. But you're in the Amazon rainforest. Still a bin, or only if it's a bargain.
I mean, there'd have to be some like good activities I can do out there.
Okay,
So
well, I mean, you
the
got a lot of
shack's putting
trees.
me off.
Okay,
shack's
fine,
putting me
fine.
off,
So
so
we're still in the bin.
I think I'm going to bin it.
Okay, next one. Authentic African takeaway food.
What's the one where you take it all the time?
What do you mean you take?
But what was it? Bin, bargain, or
Bin, bargain, or bucket?
bucket? Yeah.
Bucket. Okay,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
your African favourites then?
It would have to be jollof.
Okay.
Nigerian
Little-
specifically.
Okay,
yeah,
the
for those of you
Africans
that
are
want-
loving that right now.
Yeah.
Representing. Anything else with the jollof rice? Something on the side?
Yeah, it's got to be chicken, plantain.
Yeah. Okay,
course.
representing. Okay, here we go. So you got your food, but how about drink? Bubble tea, bucket, bin, or bargain?
Oh, bin.
Bin.
Straight
Why?
up bin. I don't get bubble tea.
The texture.
Yeah, I don't understand the hype around it. I've had it and it's not that good.
You know what? I'm a big fan. I'm a bubble
No.
tea fruit one. Get
Why
me
is there
the,
bubbles
the
in my
lychee,
tea? And it's not tea. This is tea. This is tea.
the British, or should I
Yeah.
say the Kenyan
Exactly,
classic?
yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll move on. But I've become a fan in recent years. There's something about the texture. It's like another experience, But I won't go there just right now. Clothing, waistcoat. Is it a thing? Your buckets in it, bin, or
Bargain.
bargain.
Yeah, it's
So
not.
if it's a cheap one, it's not your go-to. You wouldn't spend a lot of
Yeah,
money on it, but you
no.
would wrap
But
it.
if it's the occasion where a waistcoat is needed,
Yeah.
then I'll go for it.
Okay, yeah, fine. Transport. Would you get a car with a soft top for the summer?
Bargain.
Bargain.
Yeah.
Now or when you're a few years older and you're in a midlife crisis?
That one. Yeah, when I'm in a midlife crisis and I need to pick me up. Yeah. Bargain.
Okay. Little health kick here. Intermittent fasting. So this 12-8 thing that I know a lot more people are doing. You don't eat between 8 p.m. and like midday the next day.
Oh, it's like the
Ever
16
done it?
hour.
Would you do it?
Would I fasting for health reasons? Oh no, maybe. So I'd have to bargain it.
Okay.
Slight, yeah, no.
Okay, maybe if your financial budget is crunched,
or if I put on loads of weight and I'm like, right, I need some extreme weight loss.
Yeah, you had a super blessed Christmas and
Exactly,
turkey.
yeah.
Okay. Experience wild climbing. So what I mean by that, you're not in boulders or something like that with all these harnesses. You literally got a little mountain or something, and you literally hands and feet trying to climb up there.
And nothing's holding me.
Nothing's holding you. It's just the adrenaline boost, and you just look. You're not. It's not a sheer cliff, but it's gonna test you, and there is some risk there.
Yeah, I'll go for it. Buy it.
So you're gonna go bucket.
Bucket, yeah. Sorry.
So you're gonna spend big money for that big experience, yeah?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
It'll be a once in a lifetime experience.
Okay.
So why not?
Nice. Right, last one then. So you're a creative guy. We're gonna find out more about that. Creative expressions. So what sort of creative expression would you bucket? So you're willing to, it's always a winner, spend a lot of money, bargain and bin. So creative expressions, music, art, expedition, whatever. Where would you put those things? Like, what sort of things would you put in those three categories? So give me one thing for bin. Creative expression, which you're just not interested in, is going in the bin every time.
Or creative expression that I'm not interested in. Probably. It sounds bad because I feel like the people that do it are really talented, but opera.
Opera, you're not into it? It's not happening?
No.
Okay, fine. Next one, bargain. What would you only do if it was a cheap ticket, a cheap experience? Could be a genre of music. It could be a type of art, a certain experience.
What would I do? Maybe like. Oh, that's really hard. If it was some sort of.
You might want to put your hand from
Sorry.
there.
Oh no! Do you know what I would do? Like how to do caricatures. People that draw caricatures.
Okay.
Like learning how to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that sounds to me like that's a bucket. Like you really wanna spend a lot of money on that?
No,
or just
no, bargain because I know I wouldn't be that good at it.
Okay, fine. You don't want to waste your money on it if it looks poor. Okay, and then bucket every time. What is your creative expression? Which is your go-to?
It would have to be. No, okay. Do you know what would be a bucket which I haven't been to? Specific event. It's called PIA, which stands for Poets in Autumn. So, for those of you that don't know, it's basically a group of Christian spoken word artists they do different shows. So they do like individual performances, they do group performances, but those guys are crazy talented. So that would be my bucket because it combines my passion of spoken word to like a crazy level of talent.
Awesome.
So that would be my bucket.
Okay, nice, sweet. So I'm always mindful when I introduce people. I try to do as best I can, let you guys give me some insight into you. But when we were talking before the podcast, you described yourself as an extroverted introvert.
I did.
What do you mean by that? Because you're a creative, you're doing all these, performance things, but you call yourself an extroverted introvert. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I'll explain a bit. I think before, like, if you asked me this a few years ago when I was a teenager, I'd have said I was an introvert. I guess I was a lot more shy then. But now, I think I love being around people. Obviously, I'm a youth worker. I'm around young people all the time. And I genuinely, I would say I am a people person.
Mm-hmm.
Love having like deep conversations with people, connecting with people in a big church. So I'm around like big communities a lot of the time. But I recharge on my own. Yeah. So I think some people, they say that if you're an extrovert, you recharge around people. I don't. Like if I've been around people, say for the day, I need me time. I need alone time. I need quiet time. So for me, that's why I'd say I'm an introvert. Also, if I'm in a big group, I'm not really the loud, outgoing one, center of attention. I'm a lot more reserved.
Interesting.
Yeah, if I'm in a big group, sometimes I like to find someone I can have a good conversation with rather than lead the conversation. You get some people, they carry a presence where they lead that conversation or they engage everyone. I wouldn't say I'm that sort of person.
That's interesting though, because I know that recently you won a bless off.
I did, yeah.
And that is a big, you need to describe and tell me about this, because my understanding is, instead of like, what's that thing when people basically destroy other people in a creative rapping way? What's
A
it
rap
called?
battle.
A rap battle.
Yeah.
Where they literally tear people down,
Yep.
and it's like, who's left
You
standing?
rip them to shreds.
So you went to Big Church Fest, and you were crowned king of the Bless Off.
I was. It was a surreal moment.
Which is a big like, you're having to spit some bars in front of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Number one, what is that, and how does that even work when you call yourself an extroverted introvert?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll explain what the Bless Offs is first. So it is basically they call it a redeemed rap battle. So you have your opponent, if you can even call them an opponent. Instead of tearing them down, you have to build them up. So we got told, there was 8 poets. We got told who we were going to go against like 3 weeks before the show. So I'd already written my piece for the first one. You get 45 seconds each. And then the audience have to vote for who blessed them the most. The next round is you have to relate that person to a Bible character. You don't know who you're going against, but I wrote something generic. Then if you get through to the final round, which of course I did, that's completely freestyle off the top of the head, and they give you 3 words. So you get a random word from the audience and 2 random words from the judges. And then
you have to whip them into whatever you say as you kind of prepared, or freestyle, or
freestyle. Literally, you get given the words and then bang, you go. And yeah, it was crazy.
Do you remember any of your lines that you spat at that time?
I do. I think I can actually remember everything that I said in that final round. So I didn't even go for 45 seconds, because when I dropped to one line, everyone just went crazy. So 3 words that I was given were microwave, marrow, and Pythagoras.
Wow.
So I literally, as I was getting these words, I was trying to figure out, like, right, how am I going to actually say this? So I was against a guy called Briggs the Wordsmith, who was ridiculously talented. So I think I'm trying to remember. So I said, this was all off the top of my head. So
freestyle.
Yeah. So I was like, Briggs, what did I say? Briggs the Wordsmith. Your wordplay could make the earth shake. Words so sharp they pierce through bone and marrow. And then I said something like, what did I say? Something about his poems taking time to prepare. You can't just quickly stick them in the microwave. And then, so Pythagoras, I got given that, and I was like, I don't even know what that word means. I can't remember. So I went to...
You had to go back to GCSE maths in your head.
I had to literally ask one of the judges, not judges, the host, Di Woolridge. He was literally just about to get the round started, and I was like, Di, like, what does it mean? I can't remember what Pythagoras is. And he was like, like, it relates to triangles. So as soon as he said triangles, I thought, like, Trinity, Holy Trinity. So I was like, try to say something around that. So then I said, what did I say? I said, Pythagoras theorem. How can I relate this to this poem and this man? Pythagoras relates to 3. Holy Trinity. As soon as I said that, everyone went wild. But I was actually, like, as I was saying it, like, when I said, how can I relate this poem to this man? I was actually thinking in my head, like, how can I actually relate this? And then I just said that. So I probably only went for about 25 seconds, and it was a good job, because I had nothing left to say after that.
There you go. You just dropped the mic, and for the socials, it's all sorted. It's locked in. So
it is, yeah. Those the official videos will be coming out soon. I think end of next week.
exciting.
So yeah, but that was a surreal moment. And to answer your question about how that links to me being an introverted extrovert, I have noticed since, I think, just one, being a spoken word artist, I guess being in front of the mic quite a lot. And I think just since becoming a Christian, I've found a lot more confidence. And I don't know, sometimes when I'm in front of the mic, something just happens. I have this, genuinely, it's like a confidence that isn't my own, because it wasn't there before I was a Christian. So I notice a big difference. And that's something I give thanks to God for. So I think He's given me the ability to be, like, outgoing and extroverted in front of big crowds, because that was a big crowd, and I was nervous, but I was also... I was confident when I was on the stage, yeah. Awesome. But that was an incredible experience. If you're ever at Big Church Day Out, go to the Bless Offs.
There you go. Awesome. Little plug there.
Yeah.
So here, we're in the Pursuit of Peace podcast. What does peace mean to you?
What does peace mean to me? I think peace to me means, like, sometimes like a stillness. But not necessarily, when I think of peace, I don't just think of, like, a peaceful setting or when life is really good. and then there's no issues. I actually think peace, for me, is actually when you're able to find, I'm going to use the word here, peace in a difficult situation, or when life is a bit chaotic, when you have that sense of calm, even when maybe you do feel a bit stressed or you're a bit overwhelmed, being able to find that peace from within. I believe peace, for me, I believe peace comes from God, and that's who gives me peace personally, and that's where I've found my peace. And the reason I say that I believe I link peace to like when life is challenging is because there's been some times I can think of in my life which I would say were the most challenging, but I found the most peace, which is quite interesting.
So amidst a storm,
Yeah,
you've got that
you can.
stillness.
Peace for me. I think actually you can find the greatest level of peace when you're in a storm. If you want to call it a storm, but yeah, that's when I've found it personally, which is quite ironic. But yeah.
Wow. And so when you think of storms, what sort of things, when you reflect back, come to your mind around this was a time where there was a storm in my life, or there was a bump in the road at this point?
Yeah, one of them was to do with a relationship. Bit of a rocky relationship. So that was one thing that had caused me like the opposite of peace, if you want to call it that. Paranoia was what I was actually experiencing at the time, and it was to do with like a few other things. There was like us getting some strange messages off random accounts. So it was just it was like robbing my peace. So that was one thing. I think sometimes what can rob my peace is when I feel insecure, and that can be maybe when I'm not performing at work as well as I feel like I should do, making mistakes, things like that, or when I'm carrying quite big levels of responsibility. That can bring stress, and that can then rob peace, if that makes sense, or rob my peace. So for me, it's just about seeking God in that moment, and what I mean by that is just praying to Him and asking Him for help. Yeah.
Wow. So it's interesting. You're almost talking about like the prayer is like your protective strategy.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to like fight against things that can rob the peace.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I guess you're in creative spheres,
Yeah.
and I've learned about creatives is that you can put in like different paint pots and different colors, and everyone's going to paint a different picture. It's super divergent, right? Being in the creative spheres. So how do you see peace looking in for other people, or how does it vary? When people express themselves, when people are even shaping something, how does peace vary, would you say, in the creative spheres from your experiences, and how other people journey it?
Yeah, I think people find peace in obviously different things. I think sometimes people actually find peace in like their creativity. So yeah, I think in terms of spoken word, I think people are using that to maybe find their peace, to express themselves, to share their struggles, the journey they're on, with obviously like a listening audience. So I see that expressed. I think people, that's a difficult question as well. I think obviously, the faith is a big one. I see that expressed in different creatives as well. Different Christian creatives that I know would talk about maybe the similar thing that I would. I don't know if I've really thought about that question too much, but yeah, I think that's probably what I would say.
I found it interesting the other day how people can internalize or externalize their thoughts, and also internally or externally process. So it's really interesting when you talk about creatives, how sometimes people can be internally processing and then suddenly go in, this is my expression to the world. Or maybe sometimes someone's freestyling literally as they speak. Things are processing and being worked out there and then. So we always have something on the podcast called Something About Peace. So the one for this episode is a little quote from someone called Wayne Dyer, who's just an author. And he says this: peace is a result of retraining your mind to process life as it is, rather than as you think it should be. So I'll say it again. Wayne Dyer says that peace is the result of retraining your mind to process life as it is, rather than as it should be. How do you reflect on that quote, and what kind of stirs in you when you hear that?
Yeah, I like that quote actually. I've never heard it before. But so firstly, the bit where he says about retraining your mind, I think that's really important and been key for me. That makes me think of a scripture from the Bible, which talks about being transformed by the renewing of your mind. So that for me resonates because for me sometimes I can just have a lot of thoughts that aren't true in my mind. It could be thoughts about me. I guess mentioned earlier about insecurity, so it can kind of link to that. And actually, it's like I need to retrain my mind here to think differently. It could be thoughts like, if I'm carrying a big responsibility, the thoughts could be something like, you can't handle this, Lewis. You won't do this well. You'll mess up. Things like that. And actually, I'm like, I need to retrain my mind to think differently here, because it corrodes my peace. Because then when I'm trying to carry the task out, it's like the stress is more. I don't have peace, and it can really take away. So I think definitely retraining your mind to think differently in those moments is really key. What can go? It's interesting. Sometimes I often look at people and I think, what's going on in their head? Because I think sometimes so much goes on in my head, and it's just, oh man, the human mind is like so interesting.
It's amazing. It's I was at a talk by this charity called Care for the Family. So they're big. They do what it says on the tin. They care for families in different ways, and the talk the event was about young people's mental emotional health. And it was this amazing video where they talked about retraining your mind is like rerouting through a forest. So when you walk through a forest, often you see a path where everyone else has walked. So therefore, everything's moved out the way and you can walk through that path. When you retrain your mind, you have to take a different route through the forest.
Yeah.
And the first time you walk it, you have to stamp down, the shrubs and the grass. But the more and more you walk that route, it then becomes the natural and the easier route, because the old route becomes overgrown. And when I think about this quote around peace being a result of retraining your mind, I'm like, wow, if I retrain my mind to think in peaceful means, but also, it talks about to think about life as it is rather than how it should be, right? So it's actually, this is how my life is right now. I'm going to be content where I'm at, and I'm not going to compare. It's like the power of contentment against comparison.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've actually found a lot of peace being content as well, which is I'm really grateful for. That's really key as well. And what was his name,
Wayne Dyer
said about life as it is now, rather than as it should be. Because I think if you're content like as you are, then that's kind of like the first. I feel like that's the first step, really. Because if you're not content and you're always aiming for something, so long as you're not there, it's like, are you going to have true peace? And then I think you can end up striving,
exerting a lot of energy
exactly
in something. I remember hearing someone say, and it's one of the most powerful things I've heard about me as a person and also as a professional, that look at what your strengths are and find your zone and just optimize life in your zone, instead of exerting effort into something that you're not yet, or maybe won't ever be. It can be a lot easier when you just go, actually, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to look at what's around me and use the resources around me that I've already been gifted with, whether they're God-given gifts or physical tools that somehow in this world you've been given. It just enables you all of a sudden to go, actually, I'm in my slipstream. It's powerful. So, hey, we're going to take a little pause here to go into our self-care piece.
Cool.
So every episode, we're really passionate about not just talking about peace, but helping you and listeners or viewers to arrive at a greater place of peace. We've done breathing, we've done affirmations, different things. And we're going to try the stop method. Okay, you're good to flow with this?
Of course.
So I'm going to lead you through it. So the stop method is something that in well-being kind of practices is something that can support people. I'll tell you what it is first before we journey through it. So stop, S-T-O-P. S stands for stand up or stop what you're doing. T stands for tune into your body or take a breath. O stands for observe your physical senses. Okay, and P stands for proceed mindfully. Okay. So sometimes people think of it as imagine new possibilities, but we'll go proceed mindfully. So I'll help you lead through this. And very simply, you can just enjoy it, enjoy the flow.
Cool.
And we'll just spend a couple of minutes here in this. I think it's really powerful when you consider self-care things, because even the stop method, you've talked about being still and calm in different spaces, but how often are things really quick, you know? So even now in this episode, we're going to literally stop. Is that all right?
That's
so
fine.
I'm thinking what we're going to do, instead of you standing up and knocking the mic, we're just going to do the stop what you're doing.
Cool.
Take a little pause and you can close your eyes to do that. Is that okay? Cool. So let's start the stop method. So S, stop what you're doing and close your eyes and take some time just to be silent. T, now tune into your body and take some deep breaths. Now O, observe your physical senses. Feel how the temperature of your skin. Feel how your body is feeling from your toes, up your legs, through to your torso, all the way out to your arms. Are you feeling tense? Are you feeling relaxed? Pay attention to your breathing. Pay attention to your lungs increasing with air, decreasing, inhaling and exhaling. Now P, imagine new possibilities and proceed mindfully. In your head, think of the hope that you have. Think about how your next moment is going to be a great moment. Think about how you're going to make the rest of this day a great day. Think about how you're going to make the rest of this week a great week. Think about the things you're going to do as you step into the next season or next chapter of life. Think positively about those things. Now take some time and return back to the present moment. So there you go, Lewis. There's a time to stop.
Wow, that was super peaceful.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I don't often do things like that.
Yeah, to be honest,
Probably never. Actually,
when there's so many things going on, it's so how hard is it to stop?
Wow. Yeah, I think what you mentioned it just before we did that, but and I haven't mentioned it yet, but the busyness of life. I do sometimes think the speed at which life goes is a bit unsustainable. I think sometimes we do need to slow down. Yeah, even relating that to my context personally, you know, it's good to be still, but also when I'm still, I like to obviously that's like my time that I like to pray. So time I spend with God. But I even find in the busyness of life, I can find that really difficult to have longer amounts of time. I feel like even that can be rushed. So even just doing that little thing there, I was like, wow, like stopping is really important. And I guess that activity is quite introspective, isn't it? And I think that's important because if you're always going at 100 miles an hour, you can easily not stop and reflect on how are you actually doing. When you sit in silence, even with no like relaxing instrumental music, I'm not saying that's wrong, but when you just sit in silence.
We love the lo-fi, but we're just...
Yeah, I love the lo-fi, chill hop,
yeah,
my best friend. But when you just sit in silence, I feel like that's when you really know how you truly are.
I sometimes think with Guardian Ballers, literally yesterday, I did an assembly with, there was about 600 boys in a school hall. And I said to them, okay, let's slow down. Take 2 fingers, put it on your pulse, you know, under your jaw or just by your thumb. And I talked about physical heartbeat, right? And I find sometimes when you're still, not even sometimes, almost all the time, when you're still, you then put your finger to your mental and emotional pulse. Where you're able to go, how am I feeling right now? Where are my emotions at right now? And I think sometimes that can be scary because you know when you're in a tough place and you're stressed or depressed or angry or a mix of emotions which are really difficult, you realize that you're going to feel them and experience them and acknowledge them, and that can be really difficult sometimes.
Sometimes I avoid stillness for that reason.
No, it's true. And
because I don't want to sit with myself right now.
Yeah. And how do you find when we're talking about the pursuit of peace, this stillness concept? Do you think it brings strength, or do you think it takes someone to be strong to be still?
I think it takes strength to do consistently. I think that's key, to actually be intentional about, I'm going to do this regularly, like, no matter how I'm feeling.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's like almost the opposite to the gym. In the gym, like, you got to constantly lift weights to make for your muscles to get bigger. But when you think about mental emotional health, I think sometimes being still are the greatest mental emotional weights that you can ever lift. That silence is like doing a rep in the gym. Because every time you're silent, you enable yourself to go to this space which is tough, where you're almost mentally, emotionally lifting more weight. But actually, it's going to cause you to have greater mental, emotional muscles.
It's true.
No, that's powerful. So, Lewis, you're a spoken word artist.
I am. Yes.
Could you potentially spit us some bars or inspire us with a little piece?
Of course.
So, what are you going to land with? What are you thinking?
So I've got a piece called Warzone, which is quite appropriate for this episode, actually. So I wrote this back in 2021, and it was just reflective of how I felt at the time, to be honest. It was just kind of an expression of what I was feeling. And my mind just felt like a war zone. So I wrote this piece, and I feel like when I performed it before, lots of people have said it's been relatable, that they can relate to it. So I guess it talks about how I wasn't in a place of peace and rest. So that's kind of what the piece is about. It's called Warzone.
So, and as someone watches or views this, what lens would you want them to see this through, or what ears would you want them to tune in as they listen to this to impact their life?
I think to reach out if you're not actually doing okay. And I think also for me, this poem is not a reflection of how I feel now. So also don't listen to it like, oh my days, he's in a really dark place. I'm not. And I wasn't in a really dark place when I wrote it, but I was in a place where I just felt really stressed a lot of the time. I think hear it for, I guess, what it is, just me expressing myself through creativity. And if you can relate, then I would say speak out, don't be silent, don't suffer in silence. This is Warzone, a spoken word piece that I wrote a couple years ago, and it goes like this. Mind racing, thoughts sharp and abrasive, piercing straight through me, shooting stars, exploding into insecurity. So much brokenness. Day by day I feel like I'm coping less, overstressed. I feel like an open mess, and yet I'm so closed off, worrying about tomorrow like it's already happening. Practicing my faith, but it feels like I'm scrambling, panicking. What's the enemy fashioning? Cruel lies that puncture like a javelin. Thought pattern damaging. Some days I question how I'm managing. Constantly battling. I'm tired of grappling. But when I reflect, professing truth is what I've been slacking in. How is it that I've forgotten no weapon formed against me shall prosper? Why is this becoming so normal? When did my mind become a war zone? Why am I experiencing so much darkness when I've been brought into the light? And I know my faith is not futile, so I cling on to hope that it will all turn round for my good. But don't you think it's crazy that the more we feel helpless, we have a tendency to ask for help less.
Wow.
Thank you.
This is where I have to do the clicks,
clicks,
in the spoken word events. Wow. Powerful.
Thank you.
Super powerful. So I just love the fact that, you've been given these gifts, right? So you just spat some amazing bars. And how do you find it when you're looking at the pursuit of peace and there's loads of people where they've got different gifts, right? Not everyone can perform like you and have those words, but when we consider the pursuit of peace, how does that come into line with skill sets and gift sets and what people do? Because you haven't always been a spoken word artist, right?
Yeah.
So how does that align with you and your world?
Yeah, I think definitely having some form of creativity, I think, can help with peace. Like when you're creating something, it doesn't have to be art. I think there's lots of different things you can create. But I think having that expression definitely does help me. Obviously, mine is specifically words, so sometimes that can really help because I'm getting words out. If it's not words for you, I think just having some form of outlet can definitely help. I personally think, because I think I believe people will have things that they're passionate about, and people have giftings, But it's interesting for me, like I found this gifting after I gave my life to Christ. So I believe it's a gifting that God has given me and is continuing to bring out of me. So sometimes I think, I wonder what giftings people would find if they maybe explored faith, and if they explored God a bit more. Because for me, like, people are always stunned when I tell them, "Oh yeah, I didn't write before I was a Christian." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Nah, I didn't write at all."
And you keep talking about when you're a Christian. How old were you when you say you became a Christian? And
Yeah, so I was 21.
in like a nugget, like a 1 minute or 30-second nugget, what was your journey to faith?
Yeah, so 30 seconds.
It's a lot to go, huh?
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. So I was an atheist. My best friend became a Christian, influenced me. First of all, I would shut him down, didn't want to hear it. Started saying things I'd never heard before. I became intrigued. I began to pray for the first time. I began to see things and experience things that I'd never experienced before. I guess we might call them miracles as Christians, and things of that nature. And I was like, oh my days, God's actually real. Like, he hears my prayers. Took me a while to then actually say, yes, Jesus, I want to follow you. Took me like about a year and a half. And at that point, I was 21. So that was at the start of 2018. And yeah, my life has completely changed, radically changed. Not that I came from a very good background, loving parents, good family, all that, but I just never knew Jesus. And now I do. And now my life is completely different. And yeah, I'm super grateful for where I am. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for him. So when I talk about, it's not even just peace, everything, but specifically this topic of peace. There's a scripture which where it says that Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and basically what I believe that to mean is like he is peace. So if I'm after peace, if I want peace, we all want peace, right? People want peace. But for me, I think he's like the real deal. We can seek things in life which maybe can bring us an element of peace, but I think when life gets really tough, we need something greater than ourselves. And for me, I believe that's what I found in Jesus. And so other things, it's like an artificial piece. It can look like the real thing, maybe like a fake football shirt, like a replica football shirt. They look,
when you're wearing right
this
now.
is real, this is real, but they can look just like the real thing. But you can always tell. Maybe you put it in the wash twice and the badge comes off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not the real thing. But Jesus, he's the real deal. So yeah.
No, it's cool to hear your story. So, as we start to come into land, is there a story or a word of inspiration or something you want to express for the record? Like, it might be a one word or one sentence or a really simple thing that you just want to express from your heart. That when you consider this pursuit of peace is a big thing for you.
What would would I say? Oh.
Or something for the record. You know, the thing when I believe that you're going to live a lot more life. You know, some people say on my tombstone, I wanted to say this, or, you know, if someone remembered me, I'd want them to think this.
Oh man, you put me under pressure now, Kieran. I've got to think of something monumental.
You do? It's going to happen.
Gosh, nothing monumental is coming to mind. I think if it's, do you know what? Find your place of rest. If we're talking about peace, I actually struggle with this. Finding a place of rest, but it kind of links to life being really busy and going really quick. Actually, finding your place of rest is key in the pursuit of peace, and that can look like different things. You know, rest doesn't just, for me, something I find relaxing is watching TV. I don't necessarily find rest in that because sometimes it's not the most replenishing thing. It's good to do. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. I like doing it. But for me, when I think about rest, I'm like, I've got to be doing something meaningful and
Life-giving,
purposeful, and life-giving. For me, it would be, like I've already mentioned, prayer, something reading can be one for me. Writing, like creatively writing. Also for me, it's journaling. I don't know how many guys journal. I mean, I feel like a lot of Christian guys do journal. I'm sure there's other guys that journal as well. But yeah, for me, journaling is a good one.
A way to rest, place of rest.
Helps me to reflect. Also, do you know what? Another practical one, something I find like therapy. It's going to sound stupid. Not stupid, but just doing keepy uppies with the football. I'm telling you, especially after like a day at work when I've had so many things going through my head or decisions to make, I'm like 15 minutes of just kicking a ball up and down. It's just so soothing. Usually when the sun's out, it's better, you know. But for me, obviously, that I love football as well. But that for me it's just super relaxing. So yeah, something practical as well. That can help.
Great. You remind me of when I went to a golf driving range the other day, and I said to someone at one point, I was like, literally, all we're doing is holding a stick
and
hitting a round ball somewhere where we're never going to see it ever again, but it feels relaxing. So I get that. So we ask all the guests this: what does the pursuit of peace mean to you?
Pursuit of peace, for me personally, would be prayer. For me, and I say that because I notice a huge difference in my life when I have made extra time, or I've had longer time for prayer compared to when I don't. So for me, the pursuit of peace looks like creating space to spend in prayer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Lewis, thanks for being with us. I appreciate that you represent for Ed Sheeran there with the Ipswich shirt this whole time.
Yeah.
Obviously, England and Euros, so represent. I'm a Welshman, but we won't talk too much about that. And the Euros, I'll just say, I hope Bellingham continues to get many stars. But thanks for being with us on the Pursuit of Peace. It's been awesome to hear your life, hear your stories, and stories of transformation in your life and others as well. So thank you for being on the Pursuit of Peace podcast.
All good.